Oh, it's a whole group of people.
Indeed.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
We're good. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome to this week's meeting of the Mindfulness Club here at Central Michigan University.
Wow, right on. I'm honored to be a part of this.
Indeed. So I want to introduce you, Chris, first off to the group. So this is Chris Grosso, everyone. Chris is the author of The Indie Spiritualist, Everything Mind, and you have an upcoming release, Dead Set on Living.
True, yes.
So we're looking forward to seeing that upcoming release. You also freelance write for Origin Magazine, Mantra, Yoga, and Health Magazine, Huffington Post, Rebel Society, and more. This is stuff from your LinkedIn account that I'm reading, just so everybody.
Yeah, it's a little different now, but that's good enough. That's close enough.
You're also a musician, eclectic musician involved in various musical endeavors ranging from kirtan to doom metal, and as I understand, many things in between.
Yes.
And also, you've been involved with the sanctuary at Shepherd's Fields.
Yep.
Which we talked about as a nonprofit land reserve that offers educational resources for transformation, community evolution, and environmental restoration. So I think you definitely probably have some shared interests here with this group of people. Anything you would like to say off the bat here?
No, the sanctuary is great. I haven't been involved with them for a couple of years. The only updated stuff I would add is I do host a podcast, which I'm very honored to do on Ram Dass's Be Here Now network. I'm not sure if anyone knows Ram Dass, but that's okay. Yeah, that's hella cool for me because like he has a show on there, and Sharon Salzberg and Krishna Das and all these other people, and I don't, other stuff. I get to speak at festivals and conferences and all that cool stuff besides write books. So yeah, that's the only thing I would add. But yeah, I actually haven't logged into my LinkedIn account in like 2 years, so I should probably do that. I forgot the password and I just never reset it. But
so you're set in stone then.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah, I saw the Buddha at the gas pump interview with you that I think that's where he got his info. So I was like, well, that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, I forgot when we did that, but that was a fun one. Long interview, but yeah.
It was. Yeah. Well, so a little bit about our group. This, like I said, is a mindfulness club. We were just talking about this, though. I think our interests kind of extend beyond mindfulness, and we focus on the question of like, what does it mean to live well, or to live consciously? Our tagline kind of is "Students for Conscious Living." And then usually like we just have sort of discussion meetings where we covered the book Search Inside Yourself by Chegme Tan about mindfulness, and then we just extend it to general discussion about topics we think are relevant to living consciously, living well. And what we're trying to do now is speak to teachers or people such as yourself who might have a little more practice or insight and maybe gain something from that. So we really appreciate you joining us here tonight.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Good luck with all of that. We'll see what I can pull out of my ass for you guys. But, no, honestly, I'm honored to be here. Can I ask, just to get to know you guys, do you guys mind and gals mind if you go around the room just so I know your names and say hi?
Indeed. So we'll do that. We also have an icebreaker, so be thinking about this while we go around the room.
Okay.
So I have 2 questions for us. Maybe just choose one. So first, if your life was to be a movie, which actor or actress would play your part? So that's our first question. Choose to answer that one. Or second one, if you have a hidden talent, perhaps a strange thing or interesting thing that you can do that not everyone can, share that with us. So just choose one. So I guess I'll start, and then we'll go around the room and then back to you. So my name's Sam Ekstrom, and probably the actors that might play me would be maybe Jack Nicholson, I was thinking, or
Nice.
Johnny Depp, or I had to look his name up, but Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh yeah, good one, good one.
So that's me, and then next is Miranda here.
I was gonna do a mix between. My name's Miranda.
Hey Miranda.
Just getting right into conversation. I was gonna do a mix of Jack Black and Seth Rogen.
Nice. I can dig that.
Yeah.
My name's Chloe. I guess a special talent would probably be I can write with both my hands.
That is. Wow.
I'm Nicole.
Nicole?
Yes.
Hi Nicole.
A hidden talent, maybe writing poetry.
Beautiful.
I'm Rachel. And
Hi Rachel.
one of my hidden talents, I suppose, would be playing music. I can play a few instruments. So.
Very neat.
Cool.
I'm Logan. I guess a hidden talent would be I play guitar, but it's starting out there.
That's cool.
My name's Kylie, and the actor that would play me would definitely be Michael Cera. Yeah.
Ah, that's another good
Oh,
one.
wow.
We've got a hip group of kids here. Not kids, young adults. That's great.
We're gonna quote you on that.
Go for it. You have
Chris
my
Grosso.
full authority, full permissions. Cool. Is that everybody?
Except you.
Okay, so I think it goes without saying that it would be either like Brad Pitt or George Clooney, because
Oh,
obviously of my
of
good
course.
looks. But no, I think I like the Seth Rogen and Jack Black deal, because I definitely don't take myself seriously at all. And Seth Rogen is just amazing. I was trying to think of some really obscure actor, and I'm drawing blanks. So I'll go with. I'm gonna steal yours. I'm sorry, but Seth Rogen, Jack Black mix. I'm with that. It works.
Very neat. Well, I'd say that was a nice introduction here. Now, I guess we were just thinking in talking over Facebook and whatnot, just to kind of open it up for some conversation. I think we did have some things we were probably interested in speaking about. But first off, if you just have any advice that you could give to young people like us, probably interested in maybe meditation or spirituality, if you could share on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, the first thing I want to make very clear is anytime I speak about anything, it is in no way something that I believe is a definitive truth. It is just directly from my own experience. And that's all I can offer anyone else is my experience. What's worked for me, what hasn't. Some things have worked for a little while, sometimes, and then, they don't work. And that's why, if any of you, familiar with any of my books, you'll see that I talk about basically all of the great wisdom traditions. I find the teachings and practices from all of them personally very beneficial. Not every aspect of all of them, but something from all of them. But not just strictly that. For me, spirituality certainly does happen on the meditation cushion, or if you're into yoga, it happens, on your yoga mat. But to me, that's kind of where we ground ourselves in it. But if we're not taking it with us when we get up and go about our day, then what's the point? What's the purpose? So for me, skateboarding can be just as spiritual of an activity as meditating can. If I'm there mindfully while I'm skateboarding, I am in meditation. If I'm playing my guitar or drums or bass or whatever, playing in a band, that is a form of meditation. As you mentioned, right now I actually am just doing my own kind of solo ambient stuff, but over the years, I still do kirtan a little bit, but but there was a point where I was simultaneously playing in a kirtan band, playing drums, and then doing a two-piece doom metal band where I was playing bass, and it was just like this really low-tuned, heavy distorted bass, and I was the vocalist, like real screamy stuff. And so I'd be practicing that one day, and then kirtan the next. But to me, they were both equally spiritual experiences because it was coming from the heart. It was very cathartic for me. So I think that not everybody, but a lot of people kind of pigeonhole themselves into what spirituality needs to look like or sound like. And there's a wonderful author, he's passed on. He was a Buddhist scholar. His name was Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche.
Right.
And he wrote a book called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. And I try to read that book once a year. And the reason I do that is because it keeps my ass in check. You know, it's like I start thinking I'm making all this spiritual progress. Like, wow, look at you. Like, you know, you've renounced this or you're doing that. And then I read this book and it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it's ego, you know? So a lot of times, and myself included, when people freshly step onto the spiritual path, they get very involved in the clothes and the sayings and the malas, and there's nothing wrong at all with any of that. Let me be very clear. But in the beginning, for a lot of us, and again, myself included, what we're actually doing is spiritualizing our ego. We're just shifting one identity for another.
Wait, shoot. It looks like you're breaking up.
Calls
here,
you to
Chris.
do. Oh,
Could you repeat that last sentence? There was like probably like 5 seconds where you were breaking up.
Sorry, I was saying you don't have to change anything about yourselves. You know, be who you are, do what you do. Of course, take up a practice. I think Sangha or Satsang or some kind of spiritual fellowship like you guys are doing right there is important, you know, to have friends on the path to bounce ideas off of, to help support you. If you feel called to get a formal teacher, go for it. I never have. I've been blessed to study under Ram Dass and Ken Wilber and some other greats, but, you know, never formally as a student. But really, make art, you know, like play your guitars, laugh, watch Seth Rogen movies. I mean, you know, I watch The Simpsons. I'm looking at my DVD collection right now. It consists of like The Office, The Simpsons, a bunch of horror movies. I like what I like, you know, and I'm just honest with myself about it. And if there comes a time where it's like, I don't feel that's appropriate, then so be it. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I've been on this path for about 15 years, and I feel like I am very honest to myself. And in being honest to myself, I don't deprive myself of things that I personally enjoy. But along with that, I have a very dedicated spiritual practice as well. So there's some of my thoughts. I would love to hear what some of you think, if that's the way this format works. I'm not entirely sure. Or if it's just you asking me questions, whatever works for you works for me.
Great. I think if people want to talk, usually I find that these people do like to talk.
Good.
This is kind of a discussion group. I do know we have a lot of longboarders in this group.
Nice.
We have like 3 on the wall here. We just rolled into this meeting. I know one of our members, he's not here right now. Ray, he always likes to talk about. That's his meditation.
Well, where the hell is Ray tonight?
I'm not sure.
This is unacceptable.
Let's hope he's longboarding.
All right, as long as he's longboarding. Otherwise, I want to talk to Ray. You put me in touch with Ray
Okay.
afterwards.
We'll give you his number here.
All right. No, but yeah, if anyone has anything they'd like to share, I would absolutely. Because the thing is, when I do festivals or workshops or whatever, like, I don't like to just talk. I want to listen because I learn constantly. Like, I am no teacher. I'm an experience sharer. And so when I hear others' experiences, that helps me grow as well. So it's just as valuable to me. So I would love to hear from anyone who's comfortable sharing.
Well, to me, I liked what you said about the like kind of transitioning your ego to a more spiritual, like you just kind of. I've really felt that with my own ego and everything because last year I went through that whole transition where I was buying my malas and
Yeah.
buying all these spiritual things because I thought that it would make me a more spiritual person, but in reality that isn't what happens. It's
I,
really
I still wear malas just to be. I don't like. I wear them
um,
too. I just don't happen to have any on now, but I have a plethora of them. So don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah. I kind of like that though. Like I think it also is important for your ego to become spiritualized because it becomes a part of you, like who you associate yourself as. And I think that when that happens, you can kind of like it tends to be a little bit easier to start doing more spiritual practice because it's how you associate yourself. And it was nice the way that you put it though.
thanks. I appreciate what you had to say. That's very cool.
Yeah, that is a neat insight. So almost like if you, where it almost becomes like a skillful means or like a new pie at first, where if you truly identify with this particular culture, or think of yourself as like a spiritual person, then you might be more inclined to meditate or do things like that off the bat, and then maybe that integrates into um, you know normalizing into an everyday life that's consistent with you know with the outside world as well. But
Yeah.
that's a unique point. I haven't thought of that. Does anybody else have any?
I feel like I lean towards a lot of like Japanese culture traditions. Like it's like with Buddhism, and even when it comes to like my eating habits, like I don't like eating at like a kitchen table. Like I like eating on the ground, like at a low table. So it just feels better that way, you know. Like so I've recently just started like um, meditating more since I've met the group, and I'm really happy that like we have this group here because we didn't have
Yeah.
that like at my last college, um, along with other groups too that we didn't have. Like I'm part of a student addiction recovery organization, so we so it kind of goes hand in hand for me, like to have both those, like the mindfulness and then also like the addiction recovery. Like these are great check-ins for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I'm into the addiction recovery thing as well. So they do certainly complement one another beautifully.
Could you talk a little bit more about that that crossover there that you've experienced in your own life?
I mean, even if you look at, and I don't advocate, one form of recovery over another for anyone who's in it. And in my forthcoming book, I talk a lot about addiction and recovery in my first two books, not just about that, but spirituality as well. In my third book, I kind of veer more in the direction of just general healing. And the reason I do that is because, we're all in recovery from something. I mean, it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol or sex or shopping. I mean, I was interviewing this Trappist monk. His name is Father Thomas Keating,
Yes.
wonderful Christian mystic. And I'd mentioned to him that I was in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And he's in his mid 80s, this really beautiful, like, light-hearted old man. And he kind of laughed at me, not in a condescending way. But he's like, well, I'm in recovery too, but I'm in recovery from the human condition. And, it's just kind of like a light went off, like, yeah, man, we're all healing from something. We're all on this healing journey, no matter what it is. We've all experienced our share of shit in life. We will all continue to experience our share of shit in life. That's just how it goes. But when we have these practices like mindfulness or mantra or yoga or meditation, whatever it is, whatever works for you, then we're able to navigate whatever storm comes our way with maybe even just a hint more of grace and ease, even just a hint. And that goes a really long way. I am far from perfect. Even though I practice, like, man, am I far from perfect? I'm laughing because, to be totally honest with you guys, like, I am a generally laid back, very peaceful person, and I'm in therapy because that's very important for me to have someone to talk to. And I was on my way to therapy yesterday, and this road was merging, and this big SUV, like, I had this little, Subaru Impreza hatchback, and this SUV, like, cuts me off, and I have to swerve, and it's, like, kind of deadlock traffic, so I stop, and I honk my horn, and I give him the double fingers, and he gets out of his car, I get out of my car, and it's like, I was ready to fight, he's like, come on, let's go. And I have a history, I used to not be so calm, but I know that if I went to him, then I was the one that was going to be charged with assault. So I said, I'm standing right here and we can do this right here, right now. And he realized I was dead serious and I wasn't going to back down. So he got back in his vehicle, and I was really disappointed in myself, because so many years of practice, and that still popped up with me. And so I got to therapy about 10 minutes early, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and the only thing I could think to do was a loving kindness practice, where I was sending myself loving kindness, and I was sending this guy loving kindness. I was basically saying, may I be safe, may I be, or may I live with ease. Sorry, I know it just broke up. I was saying, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. And then I said, may he be safe, may he be happy, may he be healthy, may he live with ease. And I went back and forth and back and forth. And then I did this breathing technique. It's a 4-4-6 breath technique, and I can talk more about that if you guys want. But by the time I got into therapy, I felt much calmer. Because I was in fight or flight mode at that point. Like, my heart was racing, because I really would have fought in that moment, which is ridiculous to me. But, because violence solves nothing. It's absolutely obnoxious. And to know that I could still go to that place, but my therapist reminded me as I'm talking to him that no matter how evolved we get, we still carry around our reptilian brain. We have these triune brains, which is the reptilian fight or flight caveman brain. Then we have our midbrain, which is the emotional center, and then our neocortex, which is our rational brain. But sometimes in moments like that, you revert right back to that, survival mode. And so, he helped me kind of bring some peace to that. But yeah, so I just mentioned that to say, like, I don't know why I mentioned that, but what it brings up for me is that one thing I do try to teach people anytime, or not teach, but share, is that one of the most important tips I can give anyone on the spiritual path is to learn to be as kind and gentle with yourself as possible. And learn to laugh at yourself too, because we're going to do dumb shit. Like, I'm not laughing about what I did yesterday, but I am cultivating compassion towards myself with the understanding that I am a fallible human being. I will never be perfect. I'm not going to be enlightened. I'm just going to spend my life doing the best I can to be the best person I can. So, your question was mindfulness and recovery. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that kind of touched on it.
Certainly.
It's definitely very helpful for me. Yesterday, I got a parking ticket, and I was trying to be very mindful and, like, beforehand, like, trying to stay calm, and I was having a pretty good day. And then as soon as I got that parking ticket, like, I ended up throwing it on the ground, and I lost one of my favorite bracelets, and I didn't even realize it because I was so angry, So, not a bracelet and a $25 parking ticket, so.
I can
And so,
understand being
and that's
angry.
life, right?
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Right. Now, another thing I think of when stuff like that happens, like when this older area of your brain kind of takes over and hijacks what's going on. It seems like, yes, I mean, you could have, like you said, practiced spirituality for decades, and stuff still happens. But
Yeah.
like post tense, that enables you to let go of the mistakes that you made and stop holding it against yourself and just move
Right.
on too. And I think a lot of people are stuck with these mental loops that they can't escape from without a practice. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's a mistake. Like you said, mistakes are still going to happen. But
Yeah.
it's a matter of how we approach them afterwards too, where the spirituality or the practice might come in.
Yeah, and that's the difference, is that had I not had my practice, not only one would I have not been able to calm myself down almost immediately after, and not only that, but send this guy that I was ready to fight, like, the thought of loving kindness. But like, today I woke up and I'm not beating myself up about it. You know, it's like, it happened. You can't change it. You did what you could afterwards. And, you know, I have no idea who this guy is. I could send him an amends if I did, but at the same time, he was in the wrong. He cut me off. I swerved. And I mean, the funny thing is, I was like so calm. I love hardcore music and punk rock and hip hop, and like I was listening to NPR, like, you know, totally chill, just, you know, like all's well in the world. So it wasn't even like I was in this aggressive state. I was really calm. Like, and prior to that, I had sat and meditated for about half an hour and, you know, was just feeling in a good space. And just like that, you know, that part of my brain kicked in and I was ready. I was ready to rock. And again, you know, that was yesterday. Today was a much better day.
Very good. That's, I mean, and, you know, I mean, that's probably possible because you've had this time of practice, you know. I mean, you've spent that time.
Only possible because of that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's very encouraging to hear.
And that's exclusive. No one's heard that except my therapist. So that's, there you guys go. Chris Grosso exclusive. He almost got in a fight with somebody. My publisher would love to hear that. Oh boy.
All right. You better pay up, Chris, or else we're.
I'll send you that money back on.
Okay,
Check your PayPal.
Sure. Did you have something to say, Logan?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you a quick question. Like, have you ever like met Ram Dass in person? Then I know you said that you were talking to him. But...
Yeah, I got to. Well, first of all, I Skyped with him a couple of times, and then I did a retreat with him out in Maui last December. And I'll actually see while I'm talking to you if I have a pic. Oh yeah, I do. I don't know if you. Yeah, this is a really special moment for me. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, we can. Oh, that's great.
That was us, and then one of the most special moments of my life. Yeah, right here. So in here you have, there I am in the middle, and you have Ram Dass, Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, Mirabai Bush, Trudy Goodman, and Rameshwar Das. And I mean, like, those are my teachers, you know, like, that was, we were there, you know, doing this retreat in Maui, and there's this Buddhist magazine called Tricycle Magazine, and they were having their 25th anniversary party in New York, and it coincided with while we were all together in Hawaii, so we did a live cast, and we each sent them, you know, a well wish and a happy birthday, and, you know, to be on stage with them and do that was just mind blowing. And I mean, Ram Dass wrote a really sweet endorsement for my first book. I have a chapter in my new book with him, a conversation. Yeah, he's a real sweetheart. I'm very honored to be a part of the Love Server Member Foundation family with my podcast over there, and just knowing him and the whole family is it's pretty amazing. It brings up, to be honest with me, often feelings of I still have self-worth issues at times, even though like I practice, but I hated myself. That's part of why I drank and used drugs and used to cut and tried to commit suicide twice, ended up in jail cells, countless emergency rooms, detoxes, rehabs. I mean, I have been through the ringer time and again. And now, this just goes to show again. You start incorporating spiritual practice into your life, and things really do change. They can change.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, we feel pretty honored or humbled to have the opportunity to speak with Ram Dass upcoming as well over Skype. So that's been really neat. That just from our group, it was funny when you asked, "Do we know Ram Dass?" I think probably most everyone who does.
So you guys have done a Skype with him too?
Well, that's coming up.
That is amazing! Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
His just so you know, his speech, as you may or may not know, is very slow.
Right.
His mind is still completely there, but after the stroke, and he has aphasia, or I forgot what the technical term is.
I think it would be.
But yeah, it takes a while for him to get full thoughts out, but the wisdom is completely there. So you guys will have a blast. He's funny as hell. When I met him in person for the first time, I walked up to him, and I get to work with and meet a lot of quote unquote famous people, not just spiritual teachers, but actors and musicians, because of my website and the work I do. And so I don't really get the starstruck thing, but with Ram Dass, it was like, whoa, it's Ram Dass. And so I'm walking up to meet him. Again, sorry, out there. And so I'm definitely feeling nervous, because it's Ram Dass. And so I lean over, to hold his hand, and all I could think to say is thank you. And I have a picture of this somewhere too. And he just could tell. I wasn't noticeably nervous, but he's pretty intuitive. And so he reaches up and he grabs my goatee, and he goes, "It's so small," because he used to have that huge beard. And so I'm like, wow, Ram Dass just totally busted my balls. This is amazing. So, yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. So congratulations. When do you guys get to talk to him?
So that's going to be January 11th.
Beautiful.
So we're trying to get, again, kind of in this format. It might be a little different depending on how many folks show up.
Yeah.
I would at least, I'm kind of hoping that everyone who wants to gets a chance to kind of introduce themselves on a kind of a one-to-one thing on the Skype. And then if we might have time, we might ask some questions. Or I was also thinking, of course, at the beginning, if he had anything to share, that we would ask him for that. So it sounds like you agree that might be a good format for talking to this guy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Just speaking with, we've got some people on faculty here from different backgrounds, but older folks again, but from that generation though, folks that were in California in the 60s, or folks that were on kind of the first wave of spirituality here, coming over from the East. And it was funny, I was at Guy Newland's Sangha on Tuesday.
Oh, I love Guy Newland. Yeah.
So Kylie's had him in a class for Buddhist traditions before. So, and I've taken that class as well. But he's a presence here on campus. But it was just funny when I was saying that to the Sangha, you got a couple of those old fogies there, and they're like, "Ram Dass? You mean the Ram Dass?"
So does Guy actually teach there, or he just lectures something? He teaches. I've had him on my podcast, actually. I love his books. I'm a big fan of his, so that's so funny. I didn't realize it was the same campus.
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, he's great. I actually, I'd had him on just shortly after his wife passed, so it was a little while ago. Very sad. But he was a great conversation, a brilliant mind, as you all know, absolutely brilliant. You guys are very lucky to have him there.
He's the advisor for this club, actually.
No shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll remember me or not, but tell him I said hi. Again, it was a little while ago, but we're friends on Facebook and stuff, so he might remember me.
No, I know for a fact he does. I mentioned
good.
He always gets CC'd in our interviews or on emails. And he knew for sure. He was like, "Oh, Chris." Yeah, so he gave us advising for interviews and so on. So
cool.
He certainly remembers you, as you said. Pretty smart cookie.
Yes, he is. That's awesome.
And we'll probably have an interview or kind of we'll probably speak with him coming up too.
Beautiful.
He usually, I think, because he's he's been with the practice for so long, he tries not to come to the meetings on a regular basis, just because usually what happens is like everyone starts asking questions of maybe the senior in the room. But he's going to be coming in probably in January or February. So
cool.
Yeah. Fun guy.
Wow, you guys have a really cool thing going on over there. I wish more schools did this. That's awesome. And it seems like you guys really know you're lucky to have it. So, I'm honored to be here with you guys tonight. It's super cool.
Oh, yeah. Again, thank you for being here. And I think there is I definitely feel like there is a kind of energy where people come together and make these connections, and certainly we represent a very small subsection of our campus. We're probably by and large a party school, known as. So, but it's neat to see. I don't know where we'll all end up in years down the road, but
sure,
we definitely have a feeling of kind of potential energy here.
Yeah, it's so neat to see this happening. I get the chance to speak at high schools and colleges, and it's amazing to me, because I'm 39. I'm dating myself now, but I'm no spring chicken anymore, But when I was your guys' age, this kind of thing wasn't happening, or if it was, very few and far between. Right. So it's really inspiring, especially when I go into high schools, or I'll go into youth rehab centers, and there was one I just spoke at about a month ago, and a few of them knew who Ram Dass was, and these are kids ages 14 to 20. So it's holy shit! This is great to see things changing. Things are shifting. I mean, there's so much horror and tragedy in the world, which goes without saying, but there's also so much beauty that's blossoming, and inspiration and community, and so kudos to all of you for doing what you're doing,
and for you for helping us. I mean, even
Thanks.
What we're doing right now, Skype from different. We're talking from 2 different states here over video.
Which state are you guys in?
We're in Michigan.
Michigan. Yep. Yeah. So I'm in Connecticut. Yeah.
So even 10 years ago, this probably would never be a thing. And the fact we can speak to Ram Dass on Maui, little old Central Michigan University. I mean, that's neat to see.
So cool.
I'm sure we all have different takes on this. One thing I think about a lot is maybe the future of where this whole movement is going. When I was talking about the first wave, it's those guys originally like Ram Dass or Chogyam Trungpa or Alan Watts, taking the original knowledge from either the Western wisdom traditions or the East over to America, and now we're 2nd or 3rd generation away from that. And especially you mentioned as being a student of Ken Wilber. what's your take on where things are headed here? And then maybe some of our members might share what they're thinking too.
It's funny you asked because I was invited to speak. Ken is having a conference out in Colorado from December 28th through January 2nd. And he invited me to come out and speak, which I'm honored. He wrote the foreword for my second book, and we've become friends, which is another mind-blowing thing. But the name of the conference is What Next?
Okay.
You know, so it's
Right.
kind of funny you say what next. I think it's going to be what we make of it. You know, like we need to show up. We need to. I think it's a dualistic thing, and I'm very much into non-dual traditions. But we need to absolutely make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in all capacities. You know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. You know, for me, exercise is a huge thing. Aside from meditation and reading and you know, all that good stuff. It's been tough because I broke my foot a few months ago, so I haven't been able to run, and I'm a runner. I just finally got the okay to start using an elliptical, which is like a tease. It's better than nothing, but I won't be able to run again until March. But that's part of my integral well-being and eating well. Not that I eat perfect. I like pizza and ice cream too once in a while, but I try to eat healthy and take care of my body. So, you know, the first part is we need to take care of ourselves and be healthy. But then we also, just in my opinion, practice karma yoga. You know, we are where we are of service to others. Like, you know, doing something like this is wonderful. I also love volunteering my time in detoxes or rehabs or where I can be of service. And it's nice that I can speak at certain conferences and festivals where I get paid or I get paid for my books, because that affords me the chance to do more volunteer work. Right. So I think it's really two sides of the same coin, you know, and it probably is a very obvious answer, but that's what I think is next, is that we focus on that, and we carry the torch. You know, like Ram Dass does not have much time left. Thich Nhat Hanh, unfortunately, is on his way out. Pema Chodron is teachers like Mirabai Starr or Noah Levine and Brad Warner. Dare I throw myself into that category, but it's like, you know, this next wave that are just trying to be lineage holders, but also at the same time not changing the teachings but adapting them to this day and age. Right. Because we have to remember these teachings come from a long time ago, and they're beautiful in their own right, but life is so much different now than it was then. So finding that balance of utilizing these teachings and practices, but also incorporating them in a way that makes sense to us today in modern society. Like, you know, when they were writing the Upanishads or the Dhammapada or the Gnostic Gospels, like, they didn't have the internet. Like, you know, Buddha wasn't able to Skype me across, you know, here, take down these notes and share them with the people over, you know, there. We had to have people like Ram Dass journey over and meet Maharaji and receive these teachings, or have Chogyam Trungpa come over, and then now his son Sakyam is sharing the lineage with people like Ethan Nichtern and Lodro Rinsler out of New York, and you know, they're next generation teachers. So it's just a matter of like honoring the lineage, but also finding a way to adapt it without bastardizing it in a way that really does work for us today in this age. That's my 2 cents. Again, I would love to hear what anyone who's comfortable sharing has to say, because what do I know? That's what I think.
Well, any thoughts from anyone? I certainly have some thoughts, but I'll wait for the others. Well, I would like to talk about Rojo Winsler. I didn't know that if he was on your radar or not. But thoughts about the future from my end, I think I think we do a little of this with our group, is especially with the book that we covered, which was Search Inside Yourself. It's based a lot on like positive psychology and also neuroscience. And I'm looking forward to a biological definition of states like mindfulness or samadhi or you know, flow or anything like that, actually defined by our brain structure or chemical basis.
Right.
I think a couple of our members have a vegan banquet for the
Oh, right on. Enjoy your vegan banquet. It was nice meeting you. Enjoy your longboard.
Yes.
Thanks.
You said enjoy your longboard. So I'm looking forward to that aspect, and I think that's something that would help us. I mean, would help to establish these practices in the at large to have the same. And we've talked about this in our reading. To have the same impression of meditation as exercise. Obviously, everyone knows at a biological level that exercise is a great thing. Meditation, that the perception may still be a little that it's mystical, woo-woo, fruity stuff that may not have a real world value. Certainly, those who practiced it would argue quite strongly against that point, but does the science argue with it? And I think I'm definitely looking forward to that. I would love to. I don't know if you ever tried this, but like try any biofeedback mechanisms where it actually shows your brain waves and you get to mess around with that.
Yeah, I haven't tried them. I mean, I'm very familiar, but yes, I have not tried them. But to briefly speak to your point, what's inspiring is, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the work, at least, of people like Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden. We have these people, Amit Goswami, Fred Allen Wolf. There are these kind of rebellious scientists that have been working on this. And there's actually a wonderful book by a gentleman named Shinzen Young, and it's called The Science of Enlightenment. And it came out, I believe, last year from Sounds True. And I highly recommend that. It's a great breakdown. It talks a lot about what you were just mentioning. So there is more of that happening. Right. And I think that that's the way, and I agree that it needs to go. Like, Search Inside Yourself was written by the guy at Google, correct? Right. Yeah, so my friend Mirabai Bush, who is part of, she was in that picture I showed you. She's actually writing Ram Dass's last book with him right now about death and dying. She teaches with him all the time, and she teaches out at Google often, and that's what they talk about. And I actually went up and visited her. She was up just north of Northampton, Mass, which is about an hour and a half. So I spent the There we go. Again. So we were talking quite a bit about how they go in and speak to a lot of corporations, and they understand that people in that field, they need the science behind it. They need, to know why. They don't want to just hear the esoteric aspects of it. They even went into Monsanto and taught there. Like, they got a lot of shit for that, but they're like, they need it more than anybody. And so they bring in these more scientific explanations and the logic. And even Sharon Salzberg teaches quite a bit at corporations now. And she brings in, a very down-to-earth, but in a way that your average person who wouldn't normally be interested in this can accept and understand it. Not everybody, but it's inspiring to see that is happening now, and it's continuing to grow and grow. And I think that's the way. Sam Harris wrote a great book called Waking Up, which is a very non-spiritual spiritual book. He studied the Dzogchen tradition and under some wonderful teachers, and he talks all about like the science of meditation and mindfulness and how it affects your brain, but in a way that he makes it very clear. Like, I don't have interest in quote unquote spirituality.
Right.
Or even Dan Harris wrote a book called 10% Happier, which is another great book. Like, he's a newscaster with, I think, ABC, and he took up meditation, and he was very skeptical. And he's like, it's not going to change your life, but it'll make you at least 10% happier if you stick with it. So, there's a lot of great books and a lot of wonderful people out there doing this kind of work.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I look forward to. I mean, you just expect like the with technology increasing at an almost exponential rate.
Yeah.
I would figure that would kind of transfer over to the spiritual path, for example, too. Even like using. You must be familiar with Insight Timer, the app.
Oh, I have a bunch of meditations up on there, actually.
I was sliding through there, and I noticed that you were on there. I was like, we're going to interview this guy.
The funny thing is, like, I use Insight Timer when I do, like, workshops and stuff. I'll usually do practices, and I always use Insight Timer, and I always promote it. And I'm like, these motherfuckers need to give me an endorsement, because I am hawking their product for free. Left and right.
Same.
Pardon my language, I swear. I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but like, it's like I love Insight Timer. I swear by it. And I tell people all the time, how can you go wrong? It's a free program. Like.
Where are they even making their money? I've wondered.
That I don't know. Like they just got an email from Maddie, who is kind of the head over there, earlier today, and they want to start monetizing in a way that the people who contribute meditations get paid.
Okay.
But I don't know how they actually make their money, since it is a free thing, and I don't think they have like add-on stuff to buy. So
I haven't seen any advertisements either.
No. So I honestly I don't know. God bless them though.
Yeah, whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And they're killing it. I mean, like, there's so many users. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Even here, I mean, so we started the CMU Mindfulness group on Insight Timer. So a number of the people here are using it on a regular basis. But it's so neat to be able to, like, connect with folks and have that. I think it was the Buddha when they were asking about the importance of Sangha. And the disciple says, Isn't spiritual community 50% of the spiritual path? And he says, no, it's 100%. And that's kind of the idea there, to see people who are doing the same thing as you, and maybe more of it, and maybe get inspired to do it yourself.
Yeah, and that's a great way to do it. Like, and that's why I tell people, even if you can just take 5 minutes a day, and dedicate yourself to 5 minutes a day to sit. And having a timer like that, it's neat because it keeps track as well. So it's kind of like that added inspiration of like, oh, wow, I've meditated this many days in a row for this amount of time. Like, every little bit of inspiration helps. So it's rad that you guys are familiar with it and some of you use it. I love it. So.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard any of your meditations on there. I just saw you on there the other day with your. I think it was I wrote it down what it was. I think it was the podcast that you have on there. The one you feed, a conversation with Chris Grosso. I think was.
I don't even honestly remember. I uploaded like a year and a half ago. They reached out and asked if I'd do some meditations, and I'm like, yeah, all right. And I think I did 5, maybe. And they've asked for more, but it's like, I've been working on my book, and I'm like, I will eventually. I don't have time right now. I'm sorry. But I am going to have the founder, and I forgot his or her name, on the podcast in January, I think. So that'll be cool. I'll find out how they make their money, and I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, however they're making it. Doesn't look like they're doing anything here, but
I know.
Maybe we'll start making money here too. I was wondering. So we were talking about this a little bit. I know we only have maybe a few minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
Usually, our group, like the idea with us, we try to keep our meetings shorter so that people don't think like this. This is just a psychology rule that I think is. It was valuable to me, so I'm just sharing it. Thinking like, so let's say meetings are 2 hours. Like that's a long time for students. So we just try to cut our meetings like at a certain time, just so that people have that incentive to keep on coming back and know it's not going to be drawn out for days on end.
I think that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice. I forget where I learned that, but I learned it recently. Actually, no, it was in that Search Inside Yourself book. Actually, so I was wondering how. So you talk about rubbing elbows with these celebrities, and I've seen on your. I think it was on the Indie Spiritualist, which is a great book.
Thanks.
I think it was Tony Hawk endorsed that one, and then you have Jeff Bridges on Everything Mind.
Yeah.
How does that come about?
I don't know. I just got a text from Bam Margera saying, "Yeah, give me a call. Like he's going to endorse my next book." It's ridiculous.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's different. Each endorsement is different. With Tony Hawk, I actually just reached out to his website, and his sister Pat runs the site. And I said, "Look, I am writing this book, and I'd seen Tony in a documentary called Finding Joe about Joseph Campbell, so I knew he had some interest. And my very first skateboard, which I still have hanging up in my apartment, was Tony Hawk's first deck. And I even have, I don't know if you can really see it, but it's a tattoo of the logo from Tony. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a logo from Tony Hawk's first deck. So I reached out and I said, "Look, I'm a big fan." And actually, hanging on my fridge right now, I wrote to him in 1986. And I said, "You're like my favorite skateboarder. Like, I have your deck. I love what you're doing." And it's right there. And he wrote back on this postcard. And it's a picture of him doing like some kind of air on a ramp. And he, just wrote back like, "Keep skating and blaze," and Tony Hawk. And it's postmarked, like 1986. And so anyways, I just mentioned all of this. And his sister was like, "Let me check and I'll let you know." And she got back and she's like, "Yeah, send the book." And he read it and he really liked it. The crazy thing to me is that, so I'm friends with Kelly Margera, who is Bam Margera's brother's Jess Margera, who's a drummer of that band CKY, and I know his wife, Kelly. And so I was talking to Kelly about a month ago, and she's like, "So check this out. Bam was over hanging out, and she has my books, and he has my books too." And she's like, "Yeah, he picked up the books." He's like, "Oh, you know this guy?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's a friend of mine." And he's like, "That's so crazy. Like, I have these books. I haven't read them. But just the other day, I was talking to Hawk, and he told me I need to read these books without even knowing I had them." I heard that, and I was like, that's it. I can die a happy man. Like, wow. Two of my favorite skateboarders, like, talking about my books. Fucking nuts. So that was Tony Hawk. Jeff Bridges was a long shot. I just reached out to his publicist. I knew he had an interest in Zen because he wrote a great book called The Dude and the Zen Master with Bernie Glassman. And I'll never forget, like, the day before I got the endorsement, I reached out and his publicist was like, "Yeah, it's not looking good. He's on set right now. I forgot what movie he's working on. But I wanted to let you know it's probably not going to happen." The next day, she's like, "Wow, Jeff did read your book and loved it, and here's the endorsement." And it was just like, the dude endorsed my book. Whoa. Like, again, another I can die now, like, moment. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't know, like, otherwise, other than that, it's just I've met people through my travels, like I told you. Like, one of my good friends, Jessica Pimentel, she's one of the stars on Orange is the New Black. I don't know if any of you watched that, but she plays the character Maria Ruiz, who in the last season was, like, leading the revolt against the guards. She's a good friend of mine because she's out in New York. She sings for a hardcore band. She's a Tibetan Buddhist. We spent a bunch of time together. So she wrote an endorsement for my last book and my next one, or this one as well. And then there's like Alex and Allison Gray. I don't know if you know them, but they're the visionary artists that did all the artwork for Tool. And they've become friends, and I do workshops with them out at Cosm, their location in New York. And it's just like I meet people, through my travels, and I guess I just have for the most part, a naturally laid back kind of demeanor that makes it easy to connect with people and actually become friends with them. So I was actually scrolling through my phone the other day because I needed to clean out phone numbers, and I was like, and this is not an ego thing, I promise. I'm just like looking at some of the names on my phone. I'm like, what the fuck, man? You're just like this punk rock hardcore kid that watches The Simpsons and like, was in jail a bunch of times, and here you are now. Like, life is weird. Life is very weird. So, yeah, that's kind of how. Each one's a little different, but those, the Tony Hawk, Jeff Bridges were two super big ones for me.
Very neat. And it sounds like, I think at least a couple of us know about, was it blanking out? Oh, okay.
Sitting really still.
Oh, we thought you were blanking out. You're just sitting very still.
Oh, I'm so zen. Can't you tell?
No, it's not frozen. It's just Chris.
Uh-uh.
He's meditative.
Yes.
And it looked really. So you're going to be doing another workshop over at Cosm in April, right?
Yep.
I saw you posted that. That's super neat.
Yeah.
I always
Go ahead. Sorry.
I always like to use, like, when I'll make a PowerPoint or something, I always use Alex's art for that.
Yeah.
Which I think does the experience justice to some extent.
It really does. Ken actually was the one who introduced me to Alex, and so I've done a few workshops out there. The last one I did was with a dear friend of mine, JP Sears. I don't know if you know him, the ultra spiritual guy, the red hair, fucking hilarious. You've probably seen some of his videos. He's kind of famous now.
Yeah.
But we did I think a 6-hour workshop, which was a lot of fun. We've done like workshops in Mexico together, and we do online stuff. And he's like a brother to me. But so that was really cool to like be at Cosm with him because he had never been there before.
Okay.
So I lined that up for us together, and we just had a blast. Like we stayed overnight, and there was like fire pits and. I froze again. Sorry.
You weren't just being still that time.
I was. No, I was.
Okay. But a really neat experience. It sounds like with Mr. Spirit.
And Alex and Allison are like two of the most beautiful, transparent, just special people. One of the cool things for me was the second workshop I did there. I was doing my own workshop, and then Alex, Allison, and I were going to do a Q&A afterwards with everyone. And so at the end, I brought my guitar, and I was doing a guitar meditation. And I did not know that Alex and Allison had come in the room. Okay. And I finished, and Alex came over, and this was my first time meeting him. They weren't there the first time I did a workshop. And he's like, hey, it's so nice to meet you. Like, I really love your work. And he showed me, he sketched 4 drawings of me. And I was just like, the fuck? Wow. Like, Alex Gray, like, so we're friends on Facebook, right, Sam? So you can look through my pictures, you'll see him. And, like, so I have a few pictures of Alex, like, holding the sketches of me playing guitar. And it's just like, whoa. Like, super cool.
Pretty soon you'll be on the cover of another Tool album.
Yeah.
Whenever that one comes out.
Whenever it comes out. They keep pushing it back, but hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. Stop making your wine, Maynard. And
yeah, right? Let's get on the ball, Maynard. Yeah. Come on now.
Well, I think we were kind of thinking an hour for the interview, and we've gone past that, Chris.
Nah, man.
Anything? I mean, I guess from us, we just want to say thank you for joining us here tonight. That's
Oh,
really
thank you guys.
it's really unique to be able to do this here in our meeting. So yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I do interviews a lot, but I've never done a Skype kind of like group. Actually, no, I've done one. This is only my second, but this was great. Like this was a real nice change of pace. I am totally honored to have been invited. Thank you for thinking enough of me to have me. It really means a lot, and I am on Facebook, and I'm totally accessible. So if anyone wants to connect, send a. Actually, I think I have like 34 friend spaces left. It's obnoxious. Like I looked the other day, I have like 4,955 friends. I know maybe 200 of them, and so if anyone wants to connect, hurry up. But I am. I'm totally accessible. As Sam knows, like I respond to messages. Like I do everything myself, so I see it and I will respond. And so if anyone has any questions that maybe they were shy to ask tonight or they think of later, hit me up. I'll get back to you, I promise.
Yeah, he will. I mean, we've been just in touch. I mean, you text me back probably faster than some of my friends do, actually.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, some of the kids I normally hang out with. So, I think Chris is very sincere with that. And
Yeah,
again,
totally.
Just thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Have a nice night, Chris.
You too. Be well.
Thank you.